All right, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? We are very, very late live on the video side anyway. The Buffalo Bills just made their first round pick. It was Maxwell Harrison, a corner from Kentucky. We are live from Resurgence Brewing, downtown Buffalo. I am joined by a guy who I have on pretty much every single week, but typically he's in New York City. Joe from Queens, but tonight Joe from Resurgence, because you're actually with me here in person, very late here Thursday night. Crowd is filing out. It was a good crowd here at Resurgence for this Bills draft party. What's going on, man? Good to have you in person. This is our first in-person podcast with you and I.
Yes,
you were kind of like you were a borderline third wheel with Joe Yurden.
By the way, they're not booing us for people listening. They're booing the Chiefs, okay? So in case everyone's like throwing peanuts at me. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. To take a page out of the Rocks book. Pat texted me and he goes, "Hey, we need some subscriptions and we need you here." In case anyone's wondering, why is the guy who hates the draft here? I agree. Why the fuck am I here right now? But
you're not. Well, admittedly, you're not the biggest draft guy,
but I do care.
You care.
I care. I just don't. I don't watch the film like the content.
I'll tell you what. This is the first time. I think this is the first time I've went to a draft party, and this was fun. I mean, this was really nice here up at Resurgence. Private area too for ticket holders here. Jeremy White and Joe DiBiase from WGR hosted. Did a really good job, especially Jeremy. He was on the microphone a lot. You got a chance to hang out and talk with those guys too a little bit. Howard Simon was here for a little bit as well. Del Reed was with us pretty much all night.
Del Reed, I bought $70 worth of stuff from his table. He owes me a big one. Damn it. I bought a Buffalo and for my kid, and then like a cool T-shirt, which I'll rock on future occasions.
We're still going here.
Yeah, we're still
because the Chiefs. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, did against the Chiefs. Look, we'll talk about the pick at least on a limited basis here. This is not going to be a very long show. We are live on the video side. It's very late. We've been here. I've been here for almost 6 hours now. You got here. I didn't even see you walk in, by the way. You kind of
I was incognito. I didn't want to talk to you first because I'm like, oh man, what's going on? I went to go talk to Del first and pay my respects to the Mafia and a couple other people, and then I saw you at some point. You were like stressing out over the camera and the fucking lights, and I'm just like, my God, bro, you're giving me agita over
all
here.
That stress. And if you're watching this on the video side too, we're behind a white brick wall background, and there's one window here. Not the most aesthetically pleasing background here, but who gives a shit, man? Nobody cares. What'd you think of the crowd here tonight? It was a pretty good crowd. It was lively for a while. And then you get to the middle of the first round, of course. It becomes a long night, but it started to pick back up in the mid-20s. And obviously, they went nuts when the Bills were on the clock.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, they had great beer. Look, Resurgence is awesome.
Yeah, good beer.
I dig the beer here. I'm always, when it comes to beers, I don't discriminate when it comes to craft beer. Obviously, Pat doesn't know what's good with beer. I always give him shit on the podcast. But here, I'm always a fan of beers that are unique and have different tastings and like stuff you would try to eat. And I feel like Resurgence has like beers that are like they have a sour blueberry pie, which was good. Actually, I had it here. It's almost done.
Got a Josh Byrne IPA, Buffalo Bandits. I got a Great Dane Lager. I'm a lager guy. Yeah, good drinks here.
Yeah, good drinks. They had pizza, and then I did not have a Paula's donut, which I may try to find one later. As I leave here. I got to drive back to Pendleton. Yeah, you found one, you fat bastard.
I definitely found one. The diet got broken tonight big time. I had one pie pizza. First time I've ever had it here. It was pretty it
was good. It's solid.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But anyway, this was a really fun party here. Like I said, a good crowd. Not too crazy. Nothing nuts.
No, it was good. Look, I've never, like you said before, I've never been to a draft party before. And I can't. Actually, you know what? I have. I'm a liar. I actually was at McFadden's in New York City. I was at the
I've been there.
I was at the EJ Manuel draft where I was at a table with a couple of buddies of mine, and I remember two people were like livid. They picked him and like were losing their minds, and I was like, I don't fucking know who he is. Like I heard of him. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens, and they were right in hindsight. That was the only think that was the only time I was ever at a draft party.
Before we get into things, too, I want to warn that we are live on the video side. However, the internet is the one thing that we cannot control here. It's been a little bit spotty, and we're almost up to 500 people already watching live, and we've only been on the air for 5 minutes. Yeah, hello, everybody. Worst case scenario, I'll try to work through any potential internet connections because it's happened a few times throughout the night when I was doing some tests. But this will be available on audio, and the audio will be sounding fine no matter what is.
I'd like to give a shout out to my boy Tooch. He's in the thing. Alex Barber. I see them in the chats. Shout out to those guys.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Lots of guys, man.
Anyone I hate, I'll give you a shout out, which will be nothing.
No, we're not. You're not here anyway for any draft pick expertise, and you'll be the first one to admit that.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm here, to be honest. I should have got like 10 other people to do this. You could have got the bar back.
Before we get into Maxwell Harrison, you're here in Buffalo. I mean, you do the show every week, so it's nice to be able to have a conversation with you in person. We had some nice hangout time, you and I. I said, Gal, Kristen Kimmick, Jeremy, Joe. It was a lot of people. Vinny.
Don't forget Dell.
I said Dell.
I wanted you to say him again because he's got $70 on my money right now from shirts and fucking bears or whatever I bought. I'm kidding. That was a good dude.
One of the most popular people at this point in Buffalo.
I think I'm more popular than Dell, if I'm being honest. I am. They fucking love me here.
Really don't think that much. All right, so listen, the Bills take a corner, and my first thought of it again, this just happened moments ago. I will be live tomorrow too, following rounds 2 and 3.
I won't be there. Sorry, everyone.
You will not be there. It'll be a different environment. I'll be back in my studio. I plan on having a guest, and usually I got my monitors in front of me, and I'm practically writing down notes and shit like that. I got some old school Howard Simon notebook thing going on right now. Howard would write everything in his notes. He never had an iPad or uses his cell phone or any of that shit. He writes all of his shit down.
As Polly Walnut said in the intervention scene, I don't write nothing down. So that's me.
But anyway, I'll have more intimate, detailed, in-depth thoughts on Maxwell Harrison tomorrow, plus whatever the Bills do. Let me start by asking you this much. I can ask you. Are you happy that the Bills stayed at 30 as opposed to, say, moving up or moving? First of all, if they would have traded out and not had a pick at a draft party for a second straight year, this place would not be happy at all. There were a couple of key moments in the draft that drew some big reactions from the crowds. I'll get into that here in just a second. But I feel like, Joe, once it got to the early 20s and the Bills didn't trade up, I was good with the Bills not trading up at all. I didn't want to trade back. I was at that mindset, and I'm glad what the Bills did what they did. Take the best player that they thought available to position in need at 30. Like, you really weren't trade up, at that point.
If you're going to trade up to get to 22nd, 23rd, I can give a shit at that point. Like, if you're trying to get, like, in the top 15, 10, sure. Like, look, I think the whole thing, when you're a great team, and look, the Bills are a great team. Yes, thank you, JJ94. I am the most entertaining guy in America. Appreciate that, sir. But when you're as great as the Bills are, you're picking the best guy available at that slot.
Yeah.
And I think you have to also view it as what is going to be like down the road. Like, what's it going to look like when you're picking, or like what's your roster going to look like next year? That's what you're thinking about. Because any guy you're picking, I'm sorry, like Maxwell could be great. I don't know if he's going to start right away or what the deal is going to be. But like, you're thinking of like what's going to happen in a year or two when you're loaded at the roster, and they are loaded, and you have to kind of look at it. What's going to happen in next year? And right now we know like they needed some new blood in that secondary, like some younger guys. Benford's their young guy, and he just got extended, and they needed some youth there.
Look, if you want to look at it from, a lot of people are like, well, you got to get better in the pass rush, and they do. And by the way, this is just round 1. Right? There's lots of picks left to come in this draft for the Buffalo Bills and for the rest of the league. But my school of thought was going back and watching that Chiefs game last year in the championship game. I don't give a shit if you had Myles Garrett and Bosa and name somebody. It doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes was getting rid of the ball within 2 seconds because nobody on the Bills secondary could cover anybody, especially once Christian Benford went down. Rasul Douglas, I like Rasul Douglas, all right, but he was a shell of even the player that they traded for the year before at this point. Kyrie Elam was a complete disaster. DeMar Hamlin was just getting roasted out there. Taylor Rapp didn't play. It probably would have been the same story. Who's the other guy that out there? Cole Bishop, the rookie. It's just, it wasn't a great rookie season for him. He kind of got, set back when he got hurt in the summer, and just, I don't know. And he kind of got thrown into the fire as well. Here's my point. They couldn't cover anybody on the Chiefs. That's got to change. And you extend Christian Benford. I very much liked, especially once the defensive tackles went off the board. So it kind of, the way the board played out kind of made the Bills' decision easy for them to go cornerback. And now potentially, if Maxwell Harrison hits, and there's no reason to think he won't, and if he does, you got both your corners locked up for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I like the thought of that, having two corners locked up potentially for the next 5 years, and with one of them being a rookie, on a cost-controlled contract.
Yeah, you need some, like I said, a cost-controlled contract. I think it's key. And you have to look at it this way, too. Like, it's very tough to figure out if Sean McDermott's going to start, like, rookies from day 1 or day 10, but there is a track record with cornerbacks starting early for him. Trey White started from day 1. Christian Benford was kind of in there really quickly his rookie year. No one had that happening.
Yeah.
On the flip side, even Toronto, Johnson was playing a lot. On the flip side, Elam was the guy who did not play at all, or he was a healthy scratch, etc. But they do have more of a history of starting younger rookie defensive backs. So I think you could see him this year.
So the Bills picked maybe less than a half hour ago. There was the pick.
Yeah.
This was a pretty packed house. Looking around now, and you can only see on the camera Joe and I in a white brick wall, but it is literally has emptied out in the last half hour. You can still hear stuff because there's stuff going on in the bar downstairs, and there's people, doing cleanup and stuff like that. But here's the thing with Hairston too, specifically Hairston, and then we'll talk about a couple other things that happened in the draft that I thought were interesting and kind of led to the Bills making this pick. And by the way, Hairston looked really jet. I remember you talking about you hope whoever gets picked isn't like Gilmore, who kind of has that look on his face. When
I didn't care when Gilmore had that look, but a lot of people did.
A lot of people did. Well, that Maxwell Harrison was at the draft, so I mean, he was expected to be a first-round pick by a lot of people. He was genuinely excited, but when it comes to him, I don't know, people watching and listening, whether you're at home, whether you were at your own little gathering, your own draft party or whatever, but here the vibe was, and I know you weren't paying that much attention because you were drinking beers and talking to people and shit, but Jeremy was on the mic a lot, and he was talking. It was a Trey Amos train. It was Trey Amos. I would have been happy with Trey Amos. I like Trey Amos, but that, I think fans just hearing about his name so much tonight here who were live, people, the first 2 mock drafts that I did with guests, it was David Tilton and Tony Braska from Cover One. They both mocked Trey Amos. I think Aaron Quinn might have as well just this past week. Anyway, he was attached to a lot of Bills mock drafts, okay? So I think the expectation was Amos. And I think, at least momentarily anyway, people were definitely taken back a little bit by when they heard Maxwell Harrison because they were expecting to hear the name Trey Amos. You know what I mean? So do you kind of feel like it was like, I don't know what to do here. Oh, I'm going to cheer because it's the Bills and they
made a pick.
That was what it was like here in real time.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I don't really do much draft prep. I was like, look, what's the position? And I was like, okay, quarterback. I'm fine with that. But I think people are happy with it. With Maxwell, I think
not everybody in the chat, which I'm going to get to a couple of those in a minute.
All right, well, I'm just going to say this. He seems from doing a quick Google, and that's what I was doing because I'm just honest with everyone. He's a very fast quarterback, which
he ran the fastest time in the entire combine of anyone at any position of 4.2840.
And oddly enough, to me, the Bills have not had a very fast cornerback because to me, I think the prototypical Sean McDermott cornerback is a physical guy. You think of a guy who's kind of physical, can play zone. That's it. Mm-hmm. They haven't had a fast guy. I mean, what fast cornerback have they had? And well, he's fast. I mean, as you just said with the combine. So I wonder if he can return punts or anything like that because he's fast. I'm curious if that's something that might happen.
I don't know about him playing
I don't know
about him playing special teams, but what I will say is I'm not sure that he fits, to your point, kind of the mold of what the Bills usually have done. And I'm not even just talking about the size. I mean, he's 6 foot and he's like about a $183. So it's a lean,
much skinnier than us.
He's got length. That's not what I'm talking about. But my understanding is he's primarily a man coverage guy. I mean, and this kind of might be a shift to the Bills playing more man coverage. Trey Amos just felt like the more prototypical fit for the Buffalo Bills. His size, his length, the way he plays, more of a kind of like a zone guy. But here's what I like about the pick, okay? Beyond the player itself, this is what I like. So if we're going to compare Maxwell Hairston to Trey Amos, because again, that's the guy everybody was talking about, here's what I like. Both of them were on the board. The Bills took the guy they wanted. Now, if it doesn't work out, that blows back on them and they deserve it. But my point is this. You know, when they took Kyrie Elam, it was right after the Kansas City took Trent McDuffie. And it felt like the Bills need a corner. That's our glaring weakness. We got to go get a corner. We trade up. We go get Kyrie Elam. The way the board fell in this draft went almost perfectly for the Bills if you want a cornerback. So it got to 30, and they had Hairston or they had Amos, and they took their guy. They took Hairston. So I like the fact when Brandon Beane says, well, we had a higher grade on Hairston or he was a first-round grade, I'm going to believe him. Sure. I'm going to believe him because they took him when they could have had Amos. Here's a couple of comparisons I'm getting early on. And again, I'm going to learn a lot more about this guy in the next 24 hours. I'm just going to be honest and tell you that. But
I won't.
Let me pull this comment up. And I got to kind of forgive me for not staring in the camera. But Joe's 80 says we drafted a lesson Leotis McKelvin.
Oh, wow.
Crazy sure. Line him up against Chase Burrow or Mahomes worthy, A.J. Brown hurt with their running backs. This guy doesn't tackle. It will not look good. All right. Well, look, it's April 24th, man. I think that's kind of a big conclusion to jump to.
Well, maybe he's been watching his film. Maybe he's a film bro.
He doesn't lack physicality. He doesn't lack willingness to tackle. What I've read the book on him is that sometimes he just lunges more than he tackles. But it's not like he's afraid of contact. He's not a soft corner.
Can I ask you this, Pat? Because you're a better draft expert than me. Him playing at Kentucky, what's Kentucky's status in football?
Well, they're in SEC. I mean, they play the best teams.
But they're not good, though, right?
No, they're not good.
Does that matter to you? Like, do you ever look at, like, what the college is? Like, okay, it's Kentucky. They're, like, the armpit of the SEC, which the SEC is very good. Does that matter to you ever when you're looking at a player? You don't.
No, I'm looking at numbers. Well, he only played 7 games because he got hurt. He had a shoulder injury, but he's fine. But 2 years ago in 2023, he had 5 interceptions. So he's definitely got playmaking ability. And for what it's worth, you know, I put a lot of stock in Dane Brugler, who is with The Athletic. He publishes this guide every year called The Beast. For people who were wondering, Hairston was CB4 on his chart. So he had him as the 4th corner. And I believe Travis Hunter might have been on that list, who kind of is a receiver and a corner. So he plays both. I'm going to get to a couple loud reactions in here and a couple picks that surprised me and also kind of maybe set the tone for where the Bills went in this first round. But anyway, he's their CB4. He had him as his 35th overall prospect. So it falls in line with where he got picked. I'm looking at his profile right now. Strengths, he says about Max Harrison. Height, length, the matchup of receivers. We already know about the 4.28 speed. He's comfortable in man-to-man because of body twitch and nimble feet. Quick to recognize route breaks. I don't want to read this whole thing. It'll take forever. Finds the ball quickly. I'm just going through some of these. Again, 6 interceptions in 20 starts. That's very impressive. He's a big playmaker when he has the ball in his hands, too. Kind of got some Deion Sanders. If you like him, you kind of have that vibe about him. If you don't like him, I guess apparently, according to some people, it's Leotis McKelvin. He averaged 23.7 yards per interception return. His favorite player is Jalen Ramsey, cocky and arrogant.
Don't forget he's Taiwan Jones' cousin.
Taiwan Jones, former Buffalo Bill. They are related. And then the last thing in the strengths is it says his want to and run support is night and day better than when he arrived, Kentucky coaches said. Weaknesses, lean frame, looks to get physical and press, but spotty timing, technique leaves him step behind, over-aggressive and handsy. That's got some Kyrie Elam that scares me a little bit here and shit like that. He'll throw his body at ball carriers instead of wrapping, allowing ball carrier to keep feet through contact, yada, yada. And he missed 5 games his junior year because of an injury. Look, I'm not going to judge a guy tonight. I'm not. You thought I might.
Judge it. Judge. Why are you scared? No one's going to remember you. No one's going to remember this.
I have.
Judge.
Do you like Brandon Bean? I'm asking
Do
you. I'm
I
asking
like
everybody.
Brandon Bean?
I'm asking you. I'm asking everybody who's listening to the show.
He's all right, I guess. I mean, look, I just want the Bills need to get a guy. Look, I'm not expecting much out of a rookie picked at 30 the first year. Like, I'm not expecting much in 2025 from this guy. It'd be great if he was. The Bills need guys who are like in the top 100 for players. Like, they need game breakers. They need guys who are making the Pro Bowl.
Yes.
They need that. That's what they need. Like, the difference between them and like the Chiefs, like Brandon being the GM versus the Chiefs GM or the fucking Rams GM is, he gets solid guys, but he needs like, I need a guy that's like, I'm going to go get his jersey, not because he's fucking blue collar or whatever. I need someone who I feel is going to be good. Like, it's going to be in the top 100. Now, when we watch the stupid NFL top 100 fucking countdown in August, sorry for the swearing, we'll be like, oh, this guy's going to make it.
You're apologizing for swearing?
What'd you say? No, my mom swears too. Yeah, they
that's
swear a lot.
rare to
My
hear
whole
it.
family swears.
It's a rare apology from you for swearing.
Yeah, no, we swear. But like, that's what they need. So
I agree 100%.
and I think that's what Bean has kind of lacked a little bit. Like, he gets those solid guys. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you. This is going to be a trick question. You ready for this? I'm going to stare at you in your eyes, the ugly eyes of yours. Would you take this guy being equivalent to like Greg Rousseau for cornerbacks?
No.
You wouldn't want that.
Nope.
Well,
are you asking me, do I compare him to
No.
Rousseau?
Do you want that? So in 5 years, he's going to have the Greg Rousseau career. Sure. I know it's tough. Like,
yes, because you got Christian Bedford. So I don't need him to be Deion Sanders.
Okay.
Be a good CB2, and I'm going to be really, really happy. But
that's not all pro, though. That's not going to be your top 100, like, your top 100.
I misunderstood your question, because what I thought you were asking me, and this is what I do like about Harrison, I think Trey Amos is a safer player. I think Trey Amos is a guy who he's got a higher floor. He ain't going to be bad. Mm-hmm. Maxwell Harrison, I think, he's got a lower floor. Like, again, people who are commenting, they do not like his physicality. Say he can't tackle. He's a twig. Get that. Kind of like a Asante Samuel Jr. vibes, which, by the way, goes against Brandon Bean. Might have been full of shit again in his conference in Florida, because he went out of his way to talk about he wants corners who could tackle. And Maxwell Harrison is a big play threat. He's a home run hitting type of corner. He's not the most fundamentally sound tackler. So,
well, they've always wanted, their cornerbacks have been tacklers before. So
I know. And this guy's strength, apparently, and again, I'm going to learn a hell of a lot more about him in the next 24 hours. I'll tell you that right now. But his strength, from my understanding of him coming into this process, isn't tackling. And that's Brandon Bean talked about it. The reason why I asked you if you like Brandon Bean, if you had trust in Brandon Bean, is I'll go back to, again, Trey Amos was there. And unless he got picked at 31 or 32, which I don't think he did, he didn't get picked in the first round. So he's still on the board going into day 2. The position itself, I like it. And to your point, I don't need safe guys who are going to be good enough first and second down, guys who are going to stand out against the Tennessee Titans and the Seattle Seahawks of the world. Give me guys who are going to the cam's out, but that's all right. We're still going. It's still working. It'll come right back on. Give me guys who can make plays and impact games when it matters the most.
Sure.
That's what we need right now. We need guys to get over that hump, over the Chiefs of the world. You got to have guys who show out, who have the ability to impact a game in the playoffs. And this guy has a much higher ceiling than a lot of other players in this draft. That's what I like about the pick. It's not a safe, high floor, lower ceiling type Buffalo Bill move. And that's what I kind of like about this. At least my initial in the moment response. Again, they just picked him a half hour ago.
One thing I'll mention too is don't discount Bobby Babbitt's effect on what he wants. And I get it's very easy to say like it's Sean McDermott's defense. I'm not going to deny that. It is his defense. But I'm sure Babbage can, like, the old expression, shop for the groceries. I'm sure he's shopping for like produce or something. He may want like those fast corners who aren't like the physical guys. It happens. Like, the Bills went 2 tight ends because allegedly Ken Dorsey wanted 2 tight end offenses. It was different. Like, I think you do have your thing, and maybe that's, they want maybe more man. Maybe Babbage wants more man. You know what I mean? Instead of like the zone stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of something to consider because this is, again, a fast cornerback, which they have not had. It's always been the physical guys. And maybe Babbage, he's like, hey, look, my system is kind of like, I want to do this. And again, it's easy to go into it's McDermott's defense. I get that. I'll probably say that a bunch of times. But don't discount Babbage's saying that. And maybe he likes having, more of a man-to-man defense, maybe.
I'm going to pull up a comment from Tooch in the live chat here on the video side because he's saying he's CB2. He's not going to be chasing Tyreek Hill around. He doesn't need to be chasing Jamar Chase around for the most part.
The cops are chasing Tyreek Hill.
They're paying Christian Benford they're paying Christian Benford to do that right now. They needed a CB2. This is a good fit. And if it,
I know you haven't tried that yet. Hi, everyone. We're back.
Yeah, we're back on the video side. Again,
Yeah.
We missed 30 seconds or so. There's nothing that we could do about it.
Yes, you all can see how good-looking I am in my Roddy Piper hoodie that Pat's jealous of.
And again, there's no router or nothing. Trust me, I've looked into it all. I love doing these live shows. I love doing shows with people in person. I love the interaction with the crowd when it's not the end of a draft event, but you're at the mercy of someone else's internet, and that shit just sucks. Right. If you want to listen to the show as well, it'll be available on the audio side. So what I don't know if people watching heard what I was talking about, but Will Johnson slid out of the first round entirely. Apparently that knee issue is a real deal. 32 teams passed on him. But anyway, the whole corner versus DT thing here, man. I feel like the board kind of made the Bills' decision for them. Like it was going to be defensive tackle or it was going to be corner. And the first pick that really drew a big reaction from the live crowd here at Resurgence was actually the Miami Dolphins at pick 13. They took Kenneth Grant. This was a guy who probably was one of, I'd say, maybe the three most tied to the Bills prospects in this draft, a big run-stuffing defensive tackle. He goes to Miami. Derek Harmon was the guy I wanted, and he was the one player before the Bills were on the clock where you got that fuck reaction from me. I yelled at, I was not happy. Derek Harmon was the guy that I really liked and wanted, and he ends up going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. And there was a lot of buzz that the Bills might try to move up to 21. I think it might have been for him. So the defensive tackles plus Nolan, I believe, went 16 to Arizona, and Tyreek Williams went somewhere in the mid to late 20s.
Sure.
So all the first round potential guys were gone. So there was no defensive tackle to take. The safety, Malachi Starks, who was mocked by several national people in the last 48 hours, he got taken by the Baltimore Ravens, which you got to be fucking kidding me, man. They got Starks and Kyle Hamilton now. That's going to be a hell of a tandem in Baltimore. But anyway, my whole point was it almost had to be corner. The receivers were all gone. DTs were all gone. The only other position that they could have went that I thought there was first-round talent, Mike Green specifically, Donovan Ezeraku was edge rusher, which probably would have not made you too happy, adding to the defensive line. What do you call it? The line
the
rotation.
Defensive line of doom, the defensive rotation. I mean, look, here's the thing, and this is one thing I would wish you, the football bro, would explain to me, because like you always have this 3 technique versus 1 technique, right? And what's Daquan Jones again? He's a 3, right?
He's a 1.
A 1, excuse me. can't you put a 3 at the 1? Like I just think about that because that's everyone. I feel like everyone has gotten caught up with that, but it's like the Bills never really like they just throw defensive tackles in there. It's not like I get like you want a fat guy, right? Like that,
Well,
the 1 is like a fat guy. Am I correct?
Yes and no. A 1 is a stronger guy who could play over the center.
Sure,
you know,
he's a fat
take
guy,
up blockers.
stronger
Like
guy.
Ed Oliver ain't going to be no 1 technique.
Right,
He's a more penetrating gap kind of guy. What I liked about, like, all right, for an example, Kenneth Grant is hopefully for the Dolphins anyway, he'll be a younger, better DaQuan Jones. That's the type of player that he is, a 2.5 down player. He's not a 3rd down pass rusher. A guy like Derek Harmon, what I liked about him is he's big enough to play the 1, but he's also agile enough to line up with Ed Oliver and rush the passer on 3rd downs. Walt Nolan, kind of the same type of player. Tyleik Williams, who went somewhere in the 20s. If you're watching this on the chat, let me know where Tyleik Williams went because I don't even remember. But anyway, he's more of a true 1 technique. The Bills are going to get a defensive tackle on Friday. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'd be stunned if the Bills...
here's my one question I have for you. Can the defense, and my apologies, I've been drinking, the defensive tackle for the Steelers, the one we got from the Steelers, can he play the 1?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, so what?
Well...
Like,
yes.
He can play the 1. What about Carter? Can he play the 1 if he was any good? Like
he's supposed to be a 3, but he played a little bit of 1 last year.
And I'm just saying, like,
I'm just not high on Carter.
It's tough for me to go like, well, they need this because they've ignored it for a while. It feels like in the draft in like the first 2 rounds. I don't know. And here's the thing for me personally, like if they go defensive line, in my opinion, defensive line takes a lot longer to mature. It just does.
Mostly,
yeah. Like, yes, you'll have an outlier who's good right away. So whoever they get, do not count on that guy to be like, oh man, he's going to start and get 60% of the snaps in the 2nd round if they draft someone. I just don't think it's going to be the case, and it's going to be about down the road. So yeah, like they need one. You're right. Like DaQuan Jones is like 500 years old. Like what's going to happen with him? You know, and I think that's going to be the big deal.
We are live here at Resurgence Brewing, downtown Buffalo, following the Bills draft party again. I think
they want to kick us out.
A nice crowd. No, tough shit.
No,
major props, by the way. Their staff. I actually reached out to them yesterday. Told them it'd be cool to do a live show here.
We're only doing this because I'm in town, by the way, everyone that's listening. That's the only reason why. Because I'm in town.
You wouldn't come to my office. You wouldn't come to my studio.
You didn't ask me to.
You were not going to come to my studio.
I would have thought about it. I mean, I would have took a nap. I would have took a nap because I've been up since 6 a.m. taking care of my kid and drove 7 hours. If you were like, hey, you can sit on the couch for the 1st round and I'll wake you up when Bills pick, I would have been down with that, bro.
I get a sense that Bills fans, and again, very small sample size, and it just happened, that they're surprised. I'm a little taken back by that because cornerback was the position that probably was mocked the most, talked about most.
Let me ask you real quick. This guy, Maxwell Harrison, was he mocked to the Bills at all?
I don't know, but
because I think that's a big thing. If you're not mocked to the draft coverage, I think for a lot of fans, they look at mock drafts. If someone's getting mocked to them, to the Bills, like if Peter Shager, where the fuck that guy's name is, if he's mocking the Bills, you know, they're going to get this player and this player. Like if they had gotten the Georgia safety, who was like the big, like hot topic, like the last 24.
He went 27.
He went to Baltimore. Yeah. I think fans will be like, great. Cause that's what mockers had them going to. When you don't have a guy who's the mockers have going here, I think that can kind of annoy you and go, oh, it seems like a letdown. Because you go by them what the mockers do. Like if the mockers have them, and that's why I don't watch the mocks, because I don't fucking deal with that shit.
Well, Starks was a late Bills mock popular pick.
Yeah, like
just in the last like 48 hours.
In the know, like the national people like had him there. Yeah. So and I understood that. Like they're not great at safety, obviously, and they're used to having great safeties here, and that's not been the case.
Yeah. It just like I said, it just
we'll see. Look, as I said, it makes sense to get a corner. Trey White is there for now. I have no idea how Trey White's going to be this year. No idea. None. And
this wasn't the best indictment for considering Trey White anything more than a quick little bridge. Like if you thought maybe Trey White signing and the Bills are counting on him recapturing that magic from a couple years ago before the injuries, and he's going to be your guy for the next 2, 3, 4 years, I think tonight ended that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably, but I still think he can start. He can still be the second.
Maybe week 1.
Yeah, but it depends. As I said, there's the Elam factor. He did not play right away. He never really played. And then you have like Benford and Trey White, the original Trey White before he came back, as guys who did play, who were younger guys. So, but always remember this, Pat. Like, look, teams play 3-4 wide receiver sets. Like, so everyone's going to be on the field at some points. You know what I mean? So, like, you have different corners on the field. You got a 4 wide receiver set.
He's a boundary corner, so it'll be when he starts. And when it comes to Trey White's going to start, or Trey White's not going to dress, because Trey White has 0 special teams value. You know, I always like when the first round is over, kind of going through the rumors that you hear, and one ended up being legit and one ended up being just complete bullshit. Like, the example, the Steelers, you know, taking a quarterback at 21, or maybe, you know, trading down or whatever. They get on their board at 21 and they take a defensive tackle. You know, the defensive minded Pittsburgh Steelers take a defensive tackle when they really still need a quarterback. Isn't Mason Rudolph? No. Well, Aaron Rodgers. Never mind. Because you know what? When the second they took Derek Harmon at 21, as if there was any drama from that attention, or, you know, you know that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up a Pittsburgh Steeler. So maybe they said, you know what, we're going to punt quarterback to next year. You know, that's the only thing I can think of. We're going to get wrapped up here in just a few minutes. I'm starting to feel bad for the help here. Although I told
you were like, oh, it's good to talk. Okay, let me ask you a question then, unless you have like a closing.
Yeah, let's go, man.
Where do you got them going tomorrow with the 2 picks?
As of right now, nothing's changed from how I felt the player. I didn't think they were going to take Hairston, but I'm not stunned. I don't hate it. I don't love it either right now. That's my instant in-time reaction. Last year, when the Bills took Keon Coleman, I instantly did not like it. So right now, I would say defensive tackle. I'd be stunned if they don't address defensive tackle tomorrow. And it's not the most it's deep, but it's not that deep. Like, if you want to go get a guy with round 2, you got to go and you got to get him relatively early. I'm pulling this up right now, again, completely on the fly. I think 5-6 tackles. All right. Darius Alexander's a name tomorrow in round 2, tomorrow being Friday night. Alfred Collins is definitely one. TJ Sanders, that's 3. Joshua Farmer, I guess he's big enough. So that could be 4. There's 4 to 5 guys in round 2 that the Bills, that are draftable guys for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm saying defensive tackle. And then the other position that I'm really following closely is safety. I really still think the Bills.
You don't believe in edge rusher? You don't think edge rusher is in play?
I mean, it's in play. It wouldn't surprise me. Knowing Sean McDermott having his influence, I'd be stunned if he doesn't get an edge rusher before a safety in this draft. I just feel like with edge rusher, I'm not saying you're punting this year, but if you take an edge rusher tomorrow, okay, early in the draft, but you got Bosa, and I know he's going to start out slow, but you still gave Joey Bosa $12 million. You just gave Greg Rizzo a big fat extension.
Sure.
You got AJ Epinesa. You're going to have Michael Hoyt back after, well, at least after the first 6 games anyway. Javon Solomon is a guy that you're developing, a 5th-round guy last year. I'm not sold. I'm not 100% sure the Bills are going to draft an edge rusher early anyway. Anything more than another developmental guy.
I could see it only because, again, they like the redshirt guys sometimes, and I could see them being like, hey, learn and you play your 20% snaps like AJ Epinesa did, like Boogie Basham did, like, even though Boogie didn't work out, but like I could see them doing that because, like, look, after next year, they don't, like, as I said, it's hard for them to start. There's not a lot of evidence of them starting defensive linemen from day one.
Agreed.
Aside from Rousseau, like, there's not. And I think they could go and get an edge rusher and go, hey, you're going to chill and, you know, enjoy and learn under the freaking fruit tree of Greg Rousseau and et cetera.
I'll tell you this much before we get out of there right now. My dream Friday night for the Buffalo Bills is get one of those defensive tackles that I mentioned in Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame. If you get those 2 guys, I will be through the roof. I do think receiver giving a play at some point tomorrow. And I think the Bills, I think the Bills are not going to pick at 56 and 62. They're
My
going to move
dream-
up or they're going to move back, and I think they want a third-round pick too.
My dream was to give up a second rounder for the Detroit wide receiver who they're trying to trade.
Jamison
possibly.
Williams.
Yeah, give me one of those and then get a defensive tackle. and I'm done.
George Pickens could very well be on the trade
he
block. Look,
unfollowed.
there's
Yeah.
veterans out there for sure that could potentially be in play. This is just night one of this process, and we're gonna put a hold on this because I don't want this to go too much longer.
That's
People are
good,
gonna
yeah.
be getting into other stuff too. We're wrapping it up here.
Who wants to
drinking
pick
this
me up and
great
drive me
game.
to Pendleton? Anyone out there right now? Come get me. Come get me.
I do. And again, anybody, especially on the video side, who's been up watching this, almost 1,000 people. I did not expect that here as we're after midnight in the Friday
Yes.
morning. But
Thanks to all of our listeners, Tooch, Ralph Wilson, the Spirit guy, and some guy named Nathan. I think.
And by the way, so Joe, you'll be back home, but you'll be on with me again live
maybe.
on Sunday night,
We'll see how
9
I
p.m.
feel.
So I'll be live Friday night
Yeah, this guy has
after night 2 of the draft.
This guy has no life.
I
FYI.
don't have much of a life, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. And then you'll be on with me. No show Saturday, but you'll be on live with me again
Oh,
on Sunday. All right. So thank you everybody for watching, for listening. Appreciate you all very, very much. I'll be back again live tomorrow night. Talk to you guys then.